people had said that. And so we went down that road, and there's no way to really validate that. That's one of those unanswerable questions,
Sure.
I think. But it's enough, for people to sit around and have a cup of coffee over.
Well, we do have a lot of cases to talk about today.
Yeah,
'Cause
sure.
You're constantly covering everything. You got a great podcast called Body Bags. You're putting out like 3 episodes a week now.
Yeah,
on that?
3
Is that right?
episodes, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
There's
Yeah.
not a body that drops that you aren't on top of. At
Yeah,
this point.
and we don't do a lot of I don't do a lot of serialized case. There are some formats out there that will take a case from beginning to end.
Sure.
And
You're
go,
doing drive-bys.
Yeah, I am, and just try. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're absolutely right. In the spirit of how I started my career relative to crack. Yeah, that's good. Thank you for that frame of reference. Walk down memory lane. And anything that is intellectually and scientifically stimulating to me, I try to draw that out of these cases that are in the news and try to hone in on that as opposed to any of the other. Don't get me wrong. People would call me a liar, for saying that we don't get into salacious details. But, those things, I'm not so much focused on the relationship aspect that people might have and those sorts of things. People go down that pig trail with that. I try to stick with the science and how we would assess a case like this moving forward. And some of them are adjudicated and some are not adjudicated. And of course, my favorite ones to do are the history ones. So,
I was just going to say, you're a real student of history. You go back to things that, you went back to Julius Caesar and did
First
that one. You
autopsy.
talked about that last time.
Yeah, first documented autopsy. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. We did Jeffrey MacDonald a couple of weeks ago because my co-producer.
Who was Jeffrey MacDonald?
Fatal Vision, the quote-unquote Green Beret. He's not a Green Beret. Green Beret doctor at Fort Bragg that killed his wife, and she's pregnant. Of course, the baby died and killed his 2 little kids, stabbed and bludgeoned to death in the bed. And he's in prison, and has been for a long time. But there's been a lot of questions about that case over a period of time. But yeah, I'll dig back down into some of the stuff that's out there. Historically, I love looking at those cases and trying to examine them. I've gone to Great Britain quite a bit over the last couple of years, and we did, when the information came out that they thought that they had a DNA match on who might be Jack the Ripper, did an episode about that, and can you really validate, and there's no way to scientifically validate that this would have been Jack the Ripper because
how did they even have that? That was 150 years ago, right?
I know, that's a fascinating story. What had happened was that one of the sergeants that was out on a particular homicide that they had linked to Jack the Ripper, and by the way, they think that with Jack the Ripper, there were other people operating during that period of time.
Interesting.
The sergeant, and most of these women, if I'm not mistaken, were all sex workers. Okay. And wow, isn't it interesting how nothing's changed, right?
Yeah.
And he had, the sergeant was at the scene and actually was gifted the shawl of one of these prostitutes that had been just butchered. And it had been passed down through the family, and it had unknown DNA on it. And they did familial DNA on it, and it came back to this Polish fellow, Polish-Jewish fellow, I think, that was working. He is a barber, interestingly enough, in
real Sweeney Todd, huh?
Yeah, it is, and people had said that, and so we went down that road, and there's no way to really validate that. That's one of those unanswerable questions,
Sure.
I think, but it's enough, for people to sit around and have a cup of coffee over.
That's right. Yeah. People like the little campfire stories like
They
that.
do. They enjoy it.
Jack the Ripper?
That's the thing about true crime, is that true crime, people say, why is it so popular? It's popular because they are our ghost stories. Just like our ancestors sat around fires and talked about terrifying things in the night. We do it. It's just that now we sit there on our phones, or maybe if you still watch television, you're watching on television.
You still watch TV?
No.
Oh, Good answer.
I do.
Good answer, Joseph Scott Morgan.
I watch I watch YouTube. Most of the stuff I watch is history. So yeah. And of course I got to watch Julian. But you know,
Good of you to throw that in there.
There you go.
I was worried it wasn't coming.
But yeah, so I don't. I don't. People say, well, what's your favorite true crime program? I was like, don't have one.
I'm on a million of them.
I know, it's like I can't. It's a busman's holiday. I can't do it. It's not one of those things that I want to do.
Yeah.
And you know, I live vicariously through other people, particularly on travel shows. So that's
like travel shows.
Yeah. So that's what I do. Yeah.
What's your favorite history you like to watch? I mean, obviously we just talked about the history that pertains to your own studies, but sounds like you're just a history buff in general.
I am. I enjoy history of the British Isles in particular.
The British Isles?
Yeah, the migration of people, the Celtic people, how they arrived in what was Britannia, well, prior to Roman invasion, I guess you'd call it. I had a great moment. I don't know, you know, here in America, we go somewhere, like you can go to Williamsburg, for instance, or, you know, my hometown in New Orleans, which is considered pretty old. And then you go into London, or maybe Cardiff is the first place I ever went to in Wales, and you go to the castle in Cardiff, and in the keep, the center, the old castle. I remember taking my son, he was 13 or 14, and we went in there, and on the keep, at the foundation of it, it's a stone foundation, and Romans had built that. And I remember as an American placing my hand on that surface, and you could still see the strikes, you know, where it had been carved out. And I had my son, you know, do that. And you're talking something that's almost 2,000 years old, and you're there, and we can't really fathom time the way they do. Our world is different. And then you realize that you're here, it's the flickering of an eye. We're here for a very short moment. And there have been many, many before us that were here, and they lived lives. They really did. And, you know, it's like one of the reasons I'll give you a great example, and this comes back to a homicide case, an ancient homicide case, Richard III, where they recovered his body, you know, in a car park. And
a car park?
Yeah, outside of
Well, they didn't have cars back then.
No, they didn't. But interestingly enough, they had paved over an area where an old church was.
Oh, you're saying now in a car park? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
sorry.
and they called it, the name of the thing was actually called the King in the Car Park. And there was a dramatic recreation of this thing, but just the history behind this, how they recovered his body, because, you know, he's painted by Shakespeare as this really evil being, and he probably really wasn't. It was Tudor nonsense.
There he is.
So
wow.
Yeah, and that was actually, they hit the first time. And interestingly enough, the space where his body was buried, if you think about when you go into a parking lot, there'll be certain areas that obviously they're striped off. But did you know where his was? There was a gigantic R painted in the parking space. Whoa. And you know, Richard. But it was like for reserved, and it just so happened when they put shovel to dirt, they were able to recover his body.
Look at him.
Yeah, his right lower occipital area. He's got, I think it was right occipital, or maybe left. I think it was right. He's got a big the skull has actually been shaved off by what they think may have been halbert.
Halbert?
Yeah, it's a large kind of pike weapon that had a blade on it, and they think that, and you would use it in battle to stop horses primarily, and they could wield these things incredibly. You remember in Shakespeare, you know, the famous line that Richard III utters in the play is, a horse, my kingdom for a horse, obviously. And that was written centuries ago, and then they find his body here. His brain would have been exposed.
What did Willie know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Another thing that they found is that they believe he was strapped over the saddle of a horse, and they defiled his body. He was stripped nude, but they had to have the body to prove that Henry VII, who was the first Tudor king, was legitimate because now the old king is dead.
He's dead, yeah.
Someone had actually taken a weapon and driven it into his groin while he was lying across the horse, trussed up on the horse.
Already dead?
Yeah, he was already dead. The forensic anthropologist came to the conclusion that was probably a post-mortem injury.
How do you conclude that 600 and some years later with just skeletons?
It's very, very difficult to do. They felt as though that the injury to the back or the occipital area of the skull was probably the fatal blow, and that the blow between his legs, they arrived at the conclusion that it was probably desecration of the remains. That was something.
So the head happened at approximately 11:07 a.m. and then the groin happened at 12:10.
Well, it's a battle. I don't know. The Battle of Bosworth.
54 minutes after death.
Precise. Yeah, we can get that exact, Julian. Absolutely.
You could make all this up, Joe Scott Morgan. I would not know.
No, I'm going to be honest. I got to be honest.
Please do.
We're not that good. We are just not that good. We cannot give you specific times, contrary to what the people on shows like, I don't know. I don't want to mention any names, but like the initials are CSI. You can't, you can't give exacts.
It ties together for the script, though.
Yeah,
ties together very well.
Oh, absolutely.
You got to. I mean, Hollywood-wise, it's good.
You got these shows where these people are doing multiple jobs. Mm-hmm. That's what's really frustrating for people.
It's called a composite character, Joseph.
Yes, I know, and it pisses people off because they spend their entire year, their entire careers perfecting that craft in that specific area. So, I don't know. I guess they're a welder, a plumber, and a carpenter all at the same time.
That's right. We need that in our life. But we thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.